Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cold Outreach Success Stories, where we interview regular business people just like you who've had a lot of success with cold outreach on email and other channels. We go deep into their process with hot tips around targeting, messaging, and personalization so that you can take away some tips to use in your cold outreach starting tomorrow. Today, we have Wissam from Truebase. Welcome to the show, Wissam.
Hi there, how are you? Happy to be here.
Awesome. I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Hope you're doing well too.
I am.
Awesome. Yeah. So tell us a little more. What does Truebase do and how do you guys make money?
Yeah, so Truebase is it's a prospecting tool actually that help you find new customers and discover new customers. We have a little bit a fresh take on how to do it. Um, and we hope we try to make it simple and automate a lot of the prospecting part of the journey.
Interesting. So how is it different from all the other competitors out there? I mean, there's the Zoom infos of the world and
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
there's how do you guys different?
Yeah, there's no shortage of those tools out there.
Yeah.
But I want to start by saying a little bit of the problem and talk a little bit about the pattern that's out there. But Zoom Info and Apollo and many others, right? They've been around for a while, and there's obviously the LinkedIn that's out there. But in reality, if you're an SDR or if you're a founder trying to get started on this, you're spending 4 to 6 hours a day going through, clicking the next button, and going through pages. I mean, yes, some of them have, a little bit different data set. Some of them have more slick UI.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, if you want to do your job right, super time consuming. You have to find the leads, you
Mhm.
have to research the leads, hop on
Mhm.
their website, build all these like Boolean searches, like kind of filters.
Mhm.
And once you land an account, now you have to do another search to there, find the leads within those accounts. You have to personalize it. You have to discover their emails. You have to debounce it.
Yeah.
You have to load your sequences. It's quite a bit of work, right? No wonder they have teams dedicated to do all of that, right? So even if you're a company and let's say you're doing very well in terms of fundraising and all of that,
Mhm.
it's still a manual process, right?
Yeah.
That has been the state of the market for super long time, and what's sad about it is that people almost got used to it. They say this is okay, this is how we
Yeah.
do it, right? So we a little bit disagreed with that, and it started in a lot of the technology bug I have in me. I've been a developer for the longest time, and I was in a position where I had to go and I was tasked to find the next customer and the next
Mhm.
hire or the next investor or whatever that is.
Mhm.
And it blew my mind how inefficient this process is, right?
Yeah.
So I started building some tools on my own, and over the times when the stars aligned, that's more or less became Truebase. So this is a little bit how we're different. So with Truebase, in a nutshell, you'll see a lot what you see somewhere else, like all the technographic and firmographic and all this data,
Mhm.
all the way, we have very large comprehensive coverage over North America.
Mhm.
Where it's different is from Truebase and into one UI, you can search through topics, not keywords. What does that mean? Like if you're looking for somebody who is talking about, location-based service, right?
Mhm.
Well, Surab, that could be spelled many different way, right? It could be location-based, it could be location proximity, it could be. So if you're looking for that, you're gonna build this gigantic, and we all build that, right? The
Yeah.
and or, quotation, no quotation, parentheses, and it's hell, right? So with what we've done is we took all these information and we use search by topics, like who's talking about this topic,
Yeah.
right? And now you're able to really quickly zoom in, into the highest leads with the highest point of conversion to what you do, right? But we don't stop there, and we also give you everything you need. We will debounce it, debounce the email. We will verify that the LinkedIn profile is fully up to date. We will do all these things for you, and that little bit change on how people can get customers faster.
Makes a ton of sense. I mean, makes a lot of sense given how um, how much selling is influenced by what the accounts are actually doing as opposed to your traditional filters like headcount or all of that. So that makes a ton of
Right.
sense. Perfect. So let's get into your outreach process then. So I assume
Yeah.
you use your own database, right?
We do, but that's like, so we use database to prospect for Truebase, but I'm hoping I can share some learnings. Like, obviously not everybody's on Truebase. That's fine. Some of the stuff we learned over time, you can be getting your list from Zoom Info or from Truebase, right? I think the same tactics apply, and I'm happy to share the learnings.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So, a few things. So obviously, we, like most others, like the starting point is that most common mistakes we've seen, and we have a lot of data to back this up, is that it's a one size fit all, right? And understanding what is basically your go-to market strategy. Most people usually are looking for decision makers, right? But guess what, right? Like, so is everybody else, right? So you're looking at lists, spreadsheets, like lists of names, usually CEO, C-level, maybe VP, maybe director, but that's as far as they go. And they compose an email, and they usually, like, the excitement of sell, 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 right?
Yeah.
And that usually on the recipient side, they're also getting bombarded,
Yeah.
right, by all these emails. And so the one size fit all usually does not work well, right? So what you want to do, you really want to draw. So B2B sales, it's a complex sale, right? It's unlike consumer world where, like, yeah, everybody can buy your product or not, and if they tried it, it's not a big deal, right? You are asking for the most important thing that the recipient offers, their attention and time, right?
Yeah.
So you really want to draw your stakeholder map in the journey, right? So what does that mean? So who's your end user, decision maker, influencer, saboteur, all of that, and have multiple touch points, right, on a timeline of a journey. So if you engage your economic buyer too early, that's not going to do anything, right? Because it's way too late, right?
Yeah.
So having this mapped into the journey, understanding this buyer journey, and have a tactic to engage with the right person at the right time over time on multi-channel could be super useful, right? So that's why, like, Truebase does that for you. You'll be able to say this is the end user's decision maker, but if you're using something else, maybe you need to go label, this is my end user, this is at the beginning of the journey, this is not. Okay. So now you build that list, okay? And assuming you've done your work to qualify it, as of, like, you don't want to spray and pray, right? It might be like, what do I have to lose? But usually it impacts your sender reputation. It has other problems, right? And that you're spending time on. It's not really the best use case, and it's actually, quite honestly, a bad thing to do, right? You're taking people's attention and you're contributing to the spam.
Yeah.
So from there, personalizing the email is super important, right? It can make a difference of the 0.1% response rate to the 60% response rate, right?
Yeah.
Depending on what market and what industry you're in. And now you have to really, most people are usually, again, selling their product because they want to do that at scale, but doing the personalization is very time consuming. So you have to almost put yourself on their shoes, right? Like, what what is important to them. And again, remember that your goal is to turn that person to be the champion, right? You're embedding a person inside the company to vouch for your product, right? That's a mindset. How do you do
Yeah.
that? You need to make them successful, right?
Mhm.
And how are they successful? What are their KPIs, right?
Mhm.
An end user, and let's say you're selling to an SDR, maybe their goal is to book more demos.
Yeah.
So that's different from an account executive, let's say, closing more deals, right?
Mhm.
So understanding what is the KPIs that they're interested in, that
Mhm.
almost becomes the outline of your email,
Right, right.
right?
So just I'll dive deeper into that in a little bit more detail. So that process that you mentioned, I find it really fascinating because most people just try to engage the decision maker and then they ignore the whole ecosystem around them in the org chart, right? Which is the influencer, saboteur, economic buyer, and all of that.
Right.
So can you dive deeper into that for me? Like who do you engage first versus later? If you can, I would love to hear that a little bit more.
It really depends on your job offering. Sorry, on the service and the product you're selling. So if you are running a product-led growth,
Mhm.
right? Which there's many, like the Slack of the world, right? So it's like there's Slack, for example, is land and expand. You discover
Yeah.
people, you have this viral component to it. You start with the free version, and then when you want to do more, you upgrade, right?
Yeah.
So if that's the case, right? You're probably starting more with the end users, right? The end users, maybe they want to go and you turn them into champions, right? The advantage of the end users is that they are more receptive. They're not called as much. They're actually, you're flattering in a way
Yeah.
them by getting them the attention and selling them new product.
Yeah.
They are more eager to jump into it, but you have to
Mhm.
make it clear. I have nothing to sell you. I know you're not the decision maker. You work through their objection.
Mhm.
I just want your feedback trying this out, right?
Yeah.
What do you think? I'm here. If you have any, let me know, right?
Yeah.
So you can engage the end user. And by the way, you can engage the end user, the decision maker, and the influencer really early in the journey,
I
right?
see.
On the decision maker, you're telling them, hey, your team can scale, your productivity can go higher, right? Uh,
Mhm.
and on the influencer, they'd be like, hey, we basically want to make sure this doesn't intercept or doesn't work on the compliance issue or anything. You can talk everybody with different language.
Right.
So that's how you can start early in the journey. Later in the journey, right? If your strategy is landing and expanding, you can go a little bit more on the economic buyer and everybody else.
I see.
If you are not a product-led growth, right, and you are like have a demo wall, the enterprise sale, right,
Mhm.
you might, I think, engaging the end users most of the time might not be the best investment for you. Like you don't want to get on a demo, spend even 30 minutes with an end user who doesn't have buying decision or buying. Um,
Mhm.
so you want to spend, but you can leverage them on introducing you. Like so, a lot of things what we do is you can talk to the end user, and they can tell you, I don't have a decision maker. I'm not a decision maker. You say, will it be okay if you forward this
Mhm.
to Allison or Bob on your team, right?
Mhm.
And you devise a very targeted email to Allison and Bob,
Mhm.
and you will hope that because it's coming through somebody, um, it will make a little bit a flag top of the list on their inbox, right? So that's
Mhm.
another thing you can leverage the end users, but also you have to target decision maker at the same time.
Mhm. Makes a ton of sense to me. Makes a ton of sense. Cool. So, in terms of your process around personalization, you mentioned a little bit
Yeah.
about role-based personalization or the persona-based personalization. Do you have some examples that you can share around this? Would love to hear
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. So there is a few learnings we've done, right? And we like, well, I will say on a high level, Surav,
Sure.
this is a very analytical exercise, right?
Mhm.
If you're waking up every day and you're just saying, you know what, here's how I feel writing my email today, right? You're you're probably not gonna get really far with this. But if you're measuring and you're experimenting and you say, well, I got 1% more on this experiment, right? And you're testing one at a time. Now you're able to advance. And I always recommend you running like a baseline experiment and a variant, and one variant only, right? On a cadence of weekly, right? Again, it depends on the volume and everything you're sending.
Right.
And you're measuring, do I have a new base, all right? Or should I keep experimenting, or what have I learned, right? So going back to the question, what worked for us, and that doesn't mean it worked for everybody else, that asking permission to sell goes really far. So the mindset where we landed is, we'll send you a few sentences, and I just one thing from you, right? Reply by yes or no, or either ignore me, right? It's one word, literally somebody walking on their phone, getting on the bus, and they replied yes, right?
Right.
And our thing will be like, for each, the stakeholder, the end user, or whoever, the one that works well for us is like, can I send you a 1-minute video showing you how Truebase is different?
Right.
So now what? So it's like, if you think about it, it's not, here it is, do you like to buy or not, right? It's different. It's like, it's a journey. There's a back and forth that's gonna keep evolving. So the first question, you send an email, they spend 10 seconds on it. Okay. Now the next question, or the next decision they need to make, do I want to spend 1 minute on this more? Right. And that's what you're asking them. Would you like to spend 1 more minute on this? And if they said yes, you send them the 1-minute video with a little bit more information if you want, because you got their permission to pitch. Right. Instead of pitching, you ask for the permission to pitch. So now they got the permission. They watch the video. It might be a fit. It might be not. Either way, it's good news, right? Because you stopped, following up with them if it's not fit, not the right time, or they want to talk more. And at the end of, you send them the 1 minute. Also, not here's my Calendly link, book, right? Is thoughts or question, will it make sense to talk more? Right? Because now the next decision in this journey, they spend 1 minute, they approve. Do they want to spend 5 minutes, 15 minutes? Right? So depending on your product and your journey, is like, if you think about it, their investment on how much they're spending, maybe at the first step, they want to spend the 30 minutes with you on a call, right? So that's kind of how it evolves.
Right. That's very interesting. It's almost like like an investor giving like a small seed and then a series A, then a, from their perspective, their money is their attention and time. So that's very interesting to look at it in a very iterative way, that they're saying yes.
Exactly.
Very interesting. All right, so let's dive deeper into your journey then, from initial days to now. What were some of the mistakes that you made when you first started the whole cold outreach process?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of the things that I more gave you, like where we ended up, but we pitched a lot on the first attempt. We did not build a stakeholder map, one size fits all. The other one, I'll tell you, this is maybe not as an obvious one, but and I know you guys do a great job with your software managing that, is the whole deliverability, right? Which is not to underestimate how your reputation is very important. So the naive way of doing this is you go load up a lot of emails and you shoot them from your main mailbox, and there's a lot of software that can do that, right? But you end up maybe in spam, you get and sometimes you don't really know it. So you really want to treat those mailboxes that you're sending them through super, super careful. That's why I go back, it'll be like, it has to be personalized, has to be smaller number. It really has to feel, even we all love automation, but it has to feel like this is somebody spent the time and it's delivered to me where I can find value in it.
Right.
So few things we've done to fix that. We have multiple domain, like you have to figure out how many mailboxes I want to have per domain, how many emails I want to send per week, and how am I monitoring the status of those and the health of those mailboxes
Mhm.
that you're sending the email from. So that is a lot of work, and it can also get pricey, and you can leverage software that can do that, like you guys.
Mhm.
If you don't do that right, then you're not going to be basically to move the needle on this.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I think deliverability is one of the most common answers I've heard on this podcast, right? Like I think
Yeah, yeah.
90% plus, and that makes sense, right? Because email providers don't want you to treat their inboxes or their users that way ultimately, right? Because if it becomes
Right.
a noisy channel, then Google's and Microsoft's business models are at risk, and they won't let that happen.
Right, and it's as you know, Suraf, it's like a movie. Things are what used to work last week doesn't work next week, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So that's why monitoring the status of the is of the mailbox, the health of it is very important. There's actually a really good creative way of doing that. Like there's software that basically crowdsources this for you, right?
I see.
So it sends emails to other participant in a network,
Uh-huh.
and it's able to know are is it going to your spam folder or is it getting to your inbox? And they
Right.
measure that, and you send for them as well. So there's a pool of how to make that happen.
Yeah, we
Um,
have that feature too. Yeah, we're aware. Like
Amazing.
it's very important because otherwise, without this collaborative network, it's just
Yeah.
impossible to get good sender reputation.
Right, like definitely, it's amazing to hear that you guys on top of that. That's one of the learnings because we try to do some software that does the heuristic. You'd be like,
Mhm.
oh, if your email is too long, if you have a link cross domain, but they go out of date so fast because so the crowdsourcing that you guys have is super powerful to really make this happen.
All right, awesome. On to my final question. What are some of the things that you're excited about trying to improve your process further?
Yeah. uh, so we have spending we have building features, and I know you guys have some great features there as well, and to personalize while we are at scale, right? So we are spending a lot of time on ChatGPT, using a lot of the proprietary data that we have to
Interesting.
write personalization part of the email at scale, right? So
Nice.
this is we're spending a lot of time on that, so we can really let you do all that work at scale.
Mhm.
The other thing we're doing right now is because a big part of the prospecting work that we do, we're taking all these website data, like your prospecting data, and we're integrating a lot of that into the personalization as well.
I see.
So you can really like if they just raise it, like if they just something they released a new product, you'll be able to really include that in the personalization as well, which could be very helpful to really get better response rate.
Mhm. Well, that sounds massive because that's one of the things that ChatGPT really brings to the table, right? Understanding of text at scale, right? And if you have
Right,
proprietary textual information, either through websites or through your own proprietary database, then I
right.
can see how that would be massive.
Yeah, yeah, definitely amazing technology, but the problem it got trained up to I think September 2020, if I'm not wrong. Uh,
20, yeah.
so, yeah, so the data is a little bit out of date. So what we do is we bridge with the data because we have the latest and the greatest.
Mhm.
We get to feed that into a trained prompt, and we can little bit get more value out of it.
Makes a ton of sense. All right, that was it from my end, Wissam. Really lovely having you on the podcast, and thanks for coming on.
Of course, very happy. That was a great time, and love what you guys are doing, Surav. And I think congratulations on being crossing the newlywed world. I guess am I the first person who can congratulate you on the podcast?
On the podcast, yes, on the podcast.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Well, I'm happy to be part of that, and congratulations.
So that's all the time we have, folks. I really enjoyed the episode. I hope you did too. Please subscribe, like, share, comment, whatever you can to spread the word out about cold outreach success stories so more people can enjoy and learn from the show. All right, that's all, folks. Bye bye.